I never thought I'd be the girl left behind while her whole family boarded a plane without her, smiling as if nothing was wrong, as if the aching space they left me in didn't even exist. The moment is tattooed into my memory. The gate number, glowing on the board like a cruel countdown, the buzz of final boarding announcements echoing overhead, and me, frozen in place, holding a carry-on bag I had packed a week in advance, heart in pieces, eyes burning with disbelief. I kept staring at the screen like it would change, like it would suddenly acknowledge that I was supposed to be on that plane. But it never did. I stood there, ignored by the world, as my phone buzzed with the message that shattered something deep inside me. Hey, sweetie, change of plans. We thought you could use the rest at home. Lila's joining us instead. Hope you understand. Love you. From Mom, with a casual emoji at the end, like this was just a harmless detour, not a total dismissal of my place in our family. I didn't cry right away. I just stared, numb. My feet felt nailed to the airport floor, the terminal noise fading around me like background static. It wasn't just the vacation, it was what it meant. After everything I'd gone through this semester, sleepless nights, pushing through panic attacks, finishing college early despite every odd, that trip was supposed to be mine. It was a promise, a reward, a sign that maybe I was finally being seen. But then Lila showed up. My sister, my opposite in every way, the golden girl, the favorite, the one with the perfect hair and perfect laugh and a gravitational pull that bent the whole family around her. She waltzed home 2 days before we were set to leave, said she'd been burnt out from finals, and suddenly everything changed. They booked an extra ticket, but apparently not enough for both of us. I didn't even get a conversation, just a swap, just a silence that said, "You're used to this, right?" Growing up, it was always Lila in the front seat, Lila picking the restaurant, Lila getting the last slice. I used to brush it off as sibling dynamics. Some people shine brighter, I told myself. But deep down, it was always a wound. A slow erosion of identity. Every time she took something, it felt like a little more of me disappeared. Like I was being erased in the background of her spotlight. And this was the final act. I sat in the airport cafe for 3 hours after they left, unable to move, watching as families hugged and reunited or took off together into their shared excitement. I couldn't go home right away. I wasn't ready to face the echo of their absence. The neat rows of packed suitcases gone from the hallway, the quiet in the kitchen where we were supposed to make pancakes the morning of departure. So instead, I just sat, scrolled, watched. Their Instagram stories from the plane. Lila had already posted a boomerang of champagne glasses in first class, captioned, "Last-minute Bali vibes." I wanted to throw my phone. But I didn't. I just stared at it, stomach twisted, until I realized I was gripping the screen so tightly my fingers hurt. That night, the house was unbearably quiet. No luggage clinking, no laughter. Just me, alone, with a microwave dinner, and a soul full of questions I couldn't ask. Was I that forgettable? That replaceable? I reread Mom's message a dozen times, hoping I'd missed something. Some hint of regret, some sign they'd fought for me. But no. They assumed I'd understand, and that hurt more than anything, because it meant they didn't even see how much it mattered to me. The next morning, I woke up late, I'd cried myself into a dreamless, heavy sleep, and made the mistake of opening the family group chat. It was full of pictures. Lila and Mom in matching sundresses by a beachfront resort, Dad snorkeling, captioned, "Wish you were here, love you." I wanted to scream. I wanted to erase myself from that chat, from that family. But instead, I just texted back, "Hope you're all having fun." No emoji, no heart, just that. And then silence. They didn't even notice the coldness. Maybe they never would. That day I went for a walk. Headphones in, sunglasses on, avoiding people. I needed air, space, anything but this house. As I walked through the neighborhood, memories floated up like ghosts. How we used to race down the block as kids. How Mom would bring popsicles to the curb. Lila always got the red one. I always got what was left. My therapist once said I had invisible child syndrome. The overlooked sibling who doesn't scream so they don't get heard. I used to laugh at that. But standing alone, with my family gone, it felt true. And that truth burned. Later that evening, I tried to distract myself. I put on a movie I loved, ordered my favorite takeout, but the ache was still there. Even the food tasted hollow. And then, just as I was about to turn off my phone and curl into myself, I got a notification. Lila had posted again. This time, a selfie on a cliff, doing a yoga pose at sunset. The caption read, "Found peace in the last place I expected. It won blessed." And something inside me snapped. She took my seat, my bed, my vacation, and now she's finding peace? I wanted to scream at the hypocrisy, at the audacity, but I didn't. I just sat there, still, quiet, numb. That was when it started to rain. The kind of sudden pounding summer storm that slaps against windows like it wants to be let in. And for some reason, I opened mine. Let the cold hit my face. Let the thunder drown out the noise in my head. And I whispered, not even knowing why, "I hope you're happy now." Because part of me meant it. But part of me, the part that was tired of being small, tired of being left behind, hoped that maybe, just maybe, the universe would finally notice what it had taken from me. And maybe, for once, karma would take her side off mute. The thing about being the other daughter is that you never realize just how deeply it's carved into your family's identity until something ugly tears the surface. And by the time it does, it's already too late to ask why. That realization settled in with a bitter clarity the morning after they left, as I sat at the kitchen table staring at my untouched cup of coffee, watching the way the light spilled across Lila's favorite mug, the one Mom had bought just for her, even though we'd both started college at the same time, but only she got a custom cup with her name in gold cursive. That was Lila's world. She didn't demand attention. She just absorbed it. It clung to her, followed her, grew around her like vines. She didn't have to try to be adored. She just existed in a way that made everyone else step aside, like sunlight through clouds. And me? I was the girl who adapted, who got used to leftovers, who said, "It's fine." So many times I forgot what it felt like to want more. But it hadn't always been this way. Or at least not so obviously. There was a time once when I thought Lila and I were close. We shared bunk beds and secrets, giggled under the covers with flashlights, played Which Disney Princess Are You? Until the battery in our mom's old laptop gave out. But somewhere around middle school, the world started tilting in her favor. She bloomed early, socially, physically, emotionally, and I stayed awkward, unsure, still trying to find the pieces of myself. And our parents? They gravitated toward the glow. Teachers praised her. Friends adored her. Boys noticed her. And every little celebration she got was echoed with silence for me. When she made the cheer squad, there were balloons. When I made honor roll, it was a passing "good job, sweetie" over the clatter of dinner plates. Over time, the message became clear. She was the daughter they showed off, and I was the one they expected to stay quiet, stay grateful, and stay out of the way. I learned how to smile through it, how to hide the sting. I became the master of subtle exits, of cheering for her from the sidelines even when I wanted to scream. I helped her rehearse for school plays I never auditioned for. I took her Instagram photos even when I hadn't posted in weeks. I was always nearby, but never quite enough to be seen. So when she returned home 2 days before our long-awaited graduation trip and Mom suddenly began reworking the travel plans, a part of me already knew what was coming. They didn't even try to sugarcoat it this time. At dinner, Mom set the plates down and said casually, "Well, Lila's coming to Bali with us. Isn't that exciting?" And I blinked, fork halfway to my mouth. I looked at Dad. He gave that half smile he always used when he didn't want to pick a side. "We'll figure out the tickets," he added, as if that explained anything. But my ticket had been booked months ago. I'd helped Mom choose the resort. I'd picked the activities. The spa day was for her. The waterfall hike was for me. It was supposed to be my moment. But with Lila back, suddenly everything shifted. We just thought you might want to decompress at home, Mom said later, when I asked what exactly was being figured out. After the semester you had, all that stress and anxiety. Maybe a little quiet time is best? I stared at her, heart pounding, throat dry. You're canceling my seat, I said flatly. She blinked. We're not canceling it, just switching things around. With who? I asked. I already knew, but I wanted to hear her say it. Mom hesitated, then exhaled. Lila, she really needs this trip. She's had such a hard year. I wanted to laugh. Hard year? Lila had dropped one class and posted about it like a brave act of self-care. I'd spent nights crying into textbooks, forcing myself out of bed through panic attacks, barely scraping by to finish my final thesis. But none of that mattered. Because Lila needed this. Because Lila always needed more. I didn't fight. I should have. But I knew the script. If I pushed back, I'd be the difficult one, the dramatic one. So I just nodded and swallowed the lump in my throat. That night, Lila peeked into my room like she used to when we were kids, already wearing one of the resort hoodies Mom bought. I'm sorry, okay? She said. I didn't know they'd do that. But the way she smiled, like she couldn't wait to post her Bali pictures, told me everything. It's fine, I lied. Enjoy the trip. She tilted her head. You sure? I mean, if you really want to go, maybe you can ask Mom again. I said it's fine, I cut in, voice sharper than I meant. She left quickly after that. And I sat in the dark, wrapped in silence, wondering why it still hurt like this when I should have seen it coming. The next morning they left early. I didn't say goodbye, just stayed in bed, eyes open, listening to the clatter of luggage wheels and Lila's laughter echoing down the hall. A few hours later, I got the text from Mom, the one with the emoji, and just like that, they were gone. And I was invisible again. That weekend dragged like molasses. I deleted social apps, tried to study, tried to read, but every time I put my phone down, I picked it right back up. Lila was already tagging herself at the resort, already making reels of the infinity pool, already soaking in the life that had been promised to me. I couldn't stop watching, couldn't look away from the life I was supposed to live. My friends texted, asking if I'd landed safe. I told them plans changed. No one asked why. They never did. It's funny how pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes it seeps, slow and steady, until it drowns you in the quiet. On the third day, I opened a draft email to my mom and just started typing. No filter, no careful phrasing, just, do you even realize what you did? Do you even see me anymore? But I didn't send it. I just stared at the blinking cursor, the silence between us louder than anything I could write. That night, I dreamed of Bali. But it wasn't the paradise I imagined. In the dream, I stood on the edge of a cliff, waves crashing below, and Lila was there, calling out to me. But I couldn't hear her. Her voice was muffled like she was underwater. And when I reached out, she turned and disappeared into the trees. I woke up sweating, heart racing, lungs tight. It was just a dream, but it felt like something more, like a warning or a prophecy. I didn't know then that in less than 48 hours, everything would shift. That the family I thought would never need me would suddenly realize how fragile their golden daughter really was. And that in the end, it wouldn't be Lila who saved the day. It would be me, the forgotten one, the afterthought, the girl they left behind. It was 2 days after the dream when the first message came, subtle and strange, as if the universe was finally tired of watching me eat my pain in silence and decided to flip the script. I was folding laundry, doing the mundane things you do when you've been emotionally gutted, trying to pretend your life hasn't just been proof of your replaceability, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Hey, do you know how to reach Lila? She's not answering. It was from a girl I vaguely remembered. Her name was Mandy or Maddie, one of Lila's college friends who'd come over once, all lip gloss and too loud laughter. I blinked at the screen, confused, thumbs hovering. Why would she text me? Before I could respond, a second message came in, this time from Dad. Short, clipped. Hey kiddo, give us a call when you're free. No emoji, no warm punctuation. Just urgency. My heart picked up speed. Something was wrong. I called him immediately. He answered on the second ring, and the moment I heard the tightness in his voice, I sat down. What's going on? I asked. Is everything okay? He hesitated, then exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. It's Lila, he said. She went off on her own this morning, a yoga hike thing through some rainforest, trail the hotel staff recommended. She didn't come back when she was supposed to. My breath caught. What do you mean she didn't come back? The group said she left halfway through. Said she wanted to go explore a hidden waterfall. Some influencer thing she saw online, but no one's heard from her since. She's not picking up her phone. I closed my eyes, pulse thudding. Of course she went off alone. Of course she chased something filtered and pretty instead of staying safe. Dad kept talking, his voice trembling in a way I hadn't heard before. We called the local authorities. They've sent a team to search, but it's remote terrain. Cliffs, thick trees, unstable paths. The rain started early this afternoon. Visibility's a mess. My hands started shaking. And Mom? She's a wreck, he said quietly. We all are. There was a pause. Then, we were hoping maybe you'd heard from her. Maybe she texted you? I stared at my phone, bile rising. No, I said. She hasn't said a word to me since you left. I didn't say, since you replaced me. I didn't have to. It was hanging there in the silence between us. I'm sorry, he said finally, voice thick. We didn't mean for any of this. But I ended the call. I couldn't do apologies now. Not when my heart was racing with 100 tangled emotions, fear, anger, resentment, and yes, a bitter flicker of vindication. Because for the first time, they needed me. Not Lila. Not the golden girl with the perfect tan and the curated captions. Me, the one they left behind. The one they forgot could ever be more than background. I sat there for a long time, phone clutched in my hand, staring at nothing. The world outside had gone gray, matching the storm brewing inside me. I could have stayed silent. I could have let them stew in their own guilt. But something pushed me to act. Not for Lila. Not even for them. For me. Because maybe this was my chance to change the story, to step out of the shadow. I opened my laptop and searched. Local emergency contacts in Bali, then tourist missing rainforest hike, then terrain maps of northern Bali. I don't know what exactly I was looking for. A clue, a pattern, a map to the moment. My sister disappeared. But I was laser-focused, a part of me awake in a way it hadn't been in months. I joined an online travel forum, made a post asking about solo hikes near Ubud that led to waterfalls, cross-referenced with Lila's last Instagram post. There it was, a tagged location, Tibumana Hidden Falls, not part of the official hike. A side trail. Risky, remote, but picture perfect. Of course she couldn't resist. I copied the coordinates and sent them to Dad. Start there, I wrote. Then I sat back and waited. An hour later, he responded. They found her car near there. Search team headed that way. Thank you. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake listening to the wind rattle the window, half expecting another call. The kind that shatters your world. At 3:12 a.m. it came, this time from Mom. She was crying. She's alive, she sobbed. Thank God, she's alive. Relief washed over me like ice water. I sat up, gripping the edge of my bed. Where was she? I asked. She slipped trying to cross a rock edge. Her phone broke in the fall. She waited hours before someone heard her calling out from the ridge. She scraped up, dehydrated, terrified, but alive, and it's because of you. My throat tightened. I just followed the clues, I whispered. But Mom wasn't listening. She was full of words now. Frantic, emotional words I'd never heard from her before. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. We shouldn't have. God, I can't believe we left you. That we didn't. She broke off into sobs again. For a moment, I felt nothing. Then, slowly, I felt it all. Every ache, every overlooked moment. Every time they'd chosen Lila over me. It was all unraveling in her voice. And I realized something. This wasn't just about the trip. This was about years, decades, of them pretending I didn't matter the same way. Of me letting them. She's going to be okay, Mom kept repeating. She'll need time to recover, but she's okay. Good, I said, and I meant it, truly. Despite everything, I didn't want Lila hurt. I never had. I just wanted them to see. And now, finally, they were. The next morning I woke to a flurry of texts, not from my parents, from strangers, people from Lila's social media who'd seen my forum post. You're her sister, right? You saved her. That's incredible. Wow. Your clue literally led the rescue team there? You're amazing. I blinked at the screen, heart pounding. Lila's world, the world of likes, of filtered smiles, was talking about me, for once. That afternoon, Dad called again. We're flying back tomorrow, he said. She wants to see you. We all do. I paused. Okay, I said slowly. But this time I felt the power in that word. The choice. They weren't dragging me into their glow anymore. They were stepping into mine. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted my room in gold, I stared at the mirror. At the girl who had always been invisible. Always the second thought. And I saw her differently. Stronger. Calmer. Like she'd walked through fire and come out with eyes clear enough to see what was real. That night, I wrote in my journal. Something I hadn't done in months. I wrote, they finally saw me. Not because I begged. Not because I cried. But because I stopped chasing and stood still long enough to let the truth speak. And then I wrote the words I'd said in the storm. The ones that still echoed in my bones. I hope you're happy now. But this time I wasn't whispering it into darkness. I was claiming it, for myself. Lila came home a week later, thinner, paler, with her wrist in a brace and a long gash curving from her shoulder to her elbow, like the island had carved its own lesson into her skin. The house was unusually quiet when they walked in, my parents, trailing behind her with tired eyes and forced smiles like they were still trying to carry the weight of what they almost lost. I was in the kitchen, deliberately not rushing to meet them at the door. I didn't know what to expect, an awkward hug, crocodile tears, some dramatic reunion orchestrated by Mom. But none of that came. Instead, Lila stood there in the threshold, her eyes finding mine across the kitchen counter, and for the first time in a long time, she looked small. Not in stature, in spirit. Like the spark she always carried like a spotlight had been flicked off, and she was finally standing in the kind of shadows I'd lived in for years. Hey, she said, voice raspy. Hey, I replied, wiping my hands on a dish towel. Not. Moving toward her. There was a beat of silence. Then she stepped in, closer, slower, like every movement cost her something. Her eyes, usually hard and glittering with confidence, were red-rimmed and softer now. I wanted to say thank you, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I heard what you did, how you found that clue, the waterfall thing. I nodded but said nothing. Let her sit in it. Let the silence stretch long enough to feel honest. I was stupid, she continued, her voice cracking. I thought I knew everything. I thought I'd be fine. It was supposed to be this perfect day, and then suddenly I was lying on a rock ledge, bleeding and alone, and the water was getting louder, and I didn't know if anyone would ever find me. Her lip trembled, and a tear slid down her cheek. I kept thinking of you. Not Mom, not Dad, you. And how I hadn't even said goodbye before I left. How I acted like you didn't matter. That did it. My breath hitched, but I stayed still. I wasn't going to comfort her. Not yet. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about recognition. About years of being dismissed finally being weighed against one horrifying moment of clarity. She sat down at the counter stool across from me, hugging her good arm. I saw it all different out there. Everything I'd done. I kept thinking, if I ever got out, I'd tell you that I was wrong, that I've always been wrong about you. I'm sorry, okay? I'm really, really sorry. I looked at her, at my sister, the girl who'd once locked me out of our room because she didn't want her friends to see the boring one, the one who'd taken my place, taken my spotlight, taken my voice. And finally, after years of smiling for cameras and speaking, for both of us had run out of clever captions and found herself utterly, terrifyingly human. You're lucky you got found, I said quietly. But I'm not the one you need to apologize to. Her brow furrowed. Then who? To the version of me you crushed every time you rolled your eyes when I spoke. To the girl who begged Mom to let her pick a vacation just once. To the one who watched you live out loud while she was told to stay in her lane. I stood slowly, heart pounding but voice steady. Apologize to her. Because I'm not her anymore. Lila blinked, a tear falling fast, and she nodded. I'm sorry, she said again. I'm sorry for all of it, for not seeing you, for treating you like backup, for taking everything and never asking how you felt. Her voice broke. You deserved better. Something in me softened, not because the words were perfect, they weren't, but because they were real, and they came without defense or deflection. That was new. That was growth. I sighed, then slowly rounded the counter and sat beside her. Yeah, I said. I did. We sat like that for a while. No hugs, no dramatic music. Just two sisters breathing in the wreckage of what was and blinking toward what might be. That night, Mom made dinner, something she hadn't done in weeks. And for the first time, she didn't serve Lila first. She handed me the best piece of salmon, looked me in the eyes, and said, "You've grown into someone really brave." I blinked, not used to her attention landing on me without a trail of disappointment following. Dad joined in too. He asked about my recent artwork. Even asked if he could hang one of my illustrations in his office, something he'd never done before. And I realized they were trying. Clumsy, late, imperfect, but trying. I could have scoffed. I could have turned cold and let them squirm. But something about watching them struggle to make things right, to untangle their favoritism, felt like its own kind of justice. So I let them. I let the small kindnesses begin rebuilding the bridge they'd burned. Not because they deserved it right away, but because I did. I deserved peace. Later that week, I got an email from a travel magazine editor. They'd seen the forum thread I'd posted, the way I'd tracked my sister's last location, and how it had led to her being rescued. We think your story, your version of it, could help others understand the reality of online influence versus real-world risk, she wrote. Would you be open to sharing your experience? I reread the message 5 times, stunned. Not just because someone finally wanted my voice, but because they wanted the truth. I accepted the offer. The article went live 2 weeks later. The title? Invisible Until the Island Spoke. How losing my place helped me find my voice. It wasn't about bashing Lila. It was about perspective. How being left behind forced me to see myself clearly. How karma didn't always come with cruelty. Sometimes it came as clarity. The story went viral. Not millions of likes viral, but enough that people commented, DM'd me, shared their own stories about being the forgotten sibling, the invisible daughter, the one left behind. I cried reading some of those messages, because it wasn't just me. It never had been. And suddenly, I wasn't alone. A month later, I got a package from Lila. Inside was a photo of us as kids, at a beach, somewhere long forgotten, both of us grinning, hair wet, sand stuck to our faces. On the back, she'd written in messy cursive, before the noise, before the phones, before we forgot each other. I want to find this again, if you ever want to try. I stared at it for a long time, touched, but not naive. I knew things wouldn't magically return to how they were. And honestly, I didn't want them to, because I was no longer willing to shrink myself to make room for her shine. I was my own light now, and anyone who couldn't see it could learn to adjust their eyes. We started rebuilding, slow, cautious texts, occasional coffees. Nothing forced, no fake smiles, just two girls, two versions of womanhood, learning how to meet somewhere in the middle. Sometimes she still stumbled, said the wrong thing, made assumptions, but she'd catch herself now. And I didn't hesitate to call her out, because I'd learned the value of my own voice. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. Because I got the last word in the best way possible. By becoming someone I could finally respect. And she finally learned what it felt like to fall and not be caught immediately. That was her storm, her reckoning, her karmic postcard from paradise. I still remember the day someone messaged me and said, "You're the sister everyone underestimates until she saves the world quietly." I saved my sister, yes. But more importantly, I saved myself. And no tropical vacation could ever compare to the view from here. From the side I built, brick by hard-earned brick, while no one was watching. I don't need a spotlight anymore. I've made peace with the shadows. Because when the world goes quiet, I finally hear myself. And she listens too now.